I wanted to work in Toronto Centre, and I will continue to work in Toronto Centre, but I want to be able to do it with Andrea Horwath, and I really believe that she is the best person, absolutely the best person to lead this province. She is qualified, she has the experience, she has the heart, she's damn hardworking, and I know that she is a good person through and through. She needs our support, she needs our help, and I'm very, very proud to be joining this team.
I know that the same passion that Kristen brought to her work at City Hall will also be brought to the hallways of Queen's Park. You know, I've met with Kristen many times over the years. She's always wanting to reach out. They're always prepared to bring to another order of government the issues that are necessary to be solved collaboratively.
Okay, so the Ontario election is on June the 2nd, just under 8 weeks away, and it's been quite the week. 2 Toronto City Councillors have added their names to the candidates list. You just saw Kristen Wong-Tam there. Some departing MPPs had a formal chance to say goodbye in the legislature, and the one top doctor for the province, the Chief Medical Officer of Health, hasn't spoken in public in a month, despite calls for him to show face. Now, to look back at the week that was, we're joined by Sabrina Nanji, journalist and founder of Queen's Park Observer, and Charlie Pinkerton, deputy editor of QP Briefing. Thank you both for joining me here on this Friday night. And what a week it was. So let's start with Kristen Wong-Tam in Toronto Centre. So, Sabrina, this was a long-time Liberal seat turned orange back in 2018. She's a popular Toronto City Councillor. Is this a safe NDP seat for June?
Hey, Christina, happy News Friday.
Yes.
You know, big headlines today. And you're absolutely right. This is a great get for the NDP. Kristen Wong-Tam, you know, longtime city councillor in Toronto. She already has a record to run on. I think you and I have talked before about incumbents having a bit of a leg up on the ticket. We know that Suze Morrison, the current representative for the NDP, is bowing out for health reasons. She was a rookie. You know, Kristen Wong-Tam might be a rookie at Queen's Park, but she's been around City Hall for quite some time. So she's a strong contender, and you're right. You know, she has the ability to, you know, hold the seat for the NDP. And I know that the Liberals, at least some of the ones that I'm talking to on the ground, are sweating this a little bit. They've nominated David Morris to run in that riding, and he's been there for a while. He's been knocking on doors for the last few months, so it's going to be some tough competition. But remember, in 2018, that was kind of change election time. So before the NDP won this seat in, you know, 4 years ago, it was a Liberal bastion. They represented this riding since, you know, for years, and so this is going to be a tough race. I think we're going to see a lot of you know, intense races, especially in the GTA and Toronto proper, because there's a lot of seats there up for grabs. And I think what we're seeing in the polls these days is that the Conservatives are on track to you know, win government again. Doug Ford and the Conservatives are polling roughly around the high 30s, you know, low 40% support. Remember, Doug Ford won a majority with around that much the last round. And of course, you know, the only poll that matters is the one on election day. But I think that the big interesting competition now is who's going to be runner-up, who's going to form official opposition. And so this is going to be a really tough contest between the Liberals and the NDP in Toronto Centre.
Yeah, I agree. Kristen Wong-Tam is certainly a get. There were rumblings about this over the last few days. And then there was this, you know, announcement today. It was flagged with the reporters. This is an announcement you want to pay attention to. And the NDP leader stood there with Kristen Wong-Tam saying, this is my candidate for Toronto Centre. Charlie, let's talk about another Toronto City Councillor turned provincial candidate. So Councillor Ford, Michael Ford. So this was, you know, he's been building up to this. He was a TDSB trustee for about 17 months, then a Etobicoke City Councillor for the last 6 years, now a PC candidate. Charlie, does he have a shot in York South Weston? It's a riding close to, but it's outside of traditional Ford Nation. What do you say?
Well, you know, this is what the Ford family does. So, you know, I think he definitely has a shot. I think it was telling that unlike Kristen Wong-Tam, he's going to be staying on as a city councillor. You know, unlike her, who she says she will be resigning when the writ drops, he said Michael Ford rather said he will be donating his councillor to charity, you can look at that as someone who isn't completely confident in his next decision. So, that said, the Ford brand, it's been here in Toronto, it's been here in Ontario for a very, very long time. Doug Ford has very ardent supporters. As Sabrina said, the PCs, as we approach the election, that'll be called sometime in these next couple of weeks, they're in a good spot, probably in a better spot than they and, a lot of observers would have thought a few weeks and even months ago. He definitely has a chance. He's definitely not a shoo-in, as you mentioned. It's directly in Ford country. But I think the number one thing to think about and think about his own confidence is the fact that he is not resigning that council seat.
And he's built up to this. I mean, he's done the work at City Hall. He didn't just he's not a rookie politician at this point. I mean, he's got enough years under his belt. Does it concern anyone on this panel, Sabrina, this feeling of maybe nepotism that he was appointed by Uncle Premier?
Look, I think, we kind of love our political dynasties here in Canada. The Ford family is not the only one. To Charlie's point, yes, they have a big brand, especially in what we call Ford Nation, sort of the Etobicoke area in Toronto, and York Southwestern, where Michael Ford is running, is kind of right on the edge of that neighboring riding. But, they're not the only families here. Trudeau, our prime minister, son of Pierre, former prime minister. We had Christine Elliott, she bid adieu in the House today, but she's also, I guess by marriage, Jim Flaherty, the late finance minister. There's a family connection there. We've got Caroline Mulroney, transportation minister, the daughter of a former prime minister. I think, the name recognition is going to actually work in their favor, especially in that spot in Toronto.
It certainly helps, if anything, to get people to pay attention. Sabrina, you mentioned, that is Minister Elliott, the health minister, along with a number of other MPPs, formally having a chance to say goodbye in the legislature. So Elliott, and this was yesterday, it's been a busy week. The budget was yesterday. I believe this took place yesterday from memory. It was sometime this week. She had said this was a dream job, of course, but then there was the pandemic. And she obviously could not have anticipated that crisis. But her dream job, to be fair, was to become the leader of the Conservative Party, which she did, or the PC Party, which she did not do successfully. Of course, it ended up being Doug Ford. What did you make of her goodbye? I mean, what does she do from here? I mean, no one can blame her for wanting to take a break from all this after leading, the province through the pandemic. Sabrina.
Yeah, I thought we had, this rare kumbaya moment in the House this week. All the outgoing MPPs, including former Premier Kathleen Wynne, the first woman premier, the first openly gay premier, big legacy vibes in these speeches coming from a lot of, political powerhouses and women powerhouses in politics, which was, refreshing, actually. We, especially right before a campaign, we rarely get to see so much, camaraderie, gracious speeches, people being candid. And this is going to be short-lived because this is against the backdrop of, campaign attack ads we saw from the NDP and the Conservatives this week. But what stood out to me in Elliott's speech was, that she went out of her way to thank frontline healthcare workers and kind of acknowledged, they're the ones doing the work. They're the real heroes that, like, throughout the last 2 years. And she's been working alongside them. But I thought that was, a classy moment, like class acts all around, I thought, in the goodbye speeches this week.
And I want to add, when I say she led this province through the pandemic, what I mean by that is in the most nonpartisan way. However you feel about it, it was her job, along with the Premier, to lead this province throughout that, and it certainly has been a long few years. Okay, on that note, we have a final topic here. Charlie, I'm going to start with you. Where is Dr. Moore? We're going to put up this tweet. This is from Dr. Michael Warner, who many people, of course, in this province, but particularly in the city, are familiar with. He is the director of critical care at Michael Garron Hospital in the city's East End. I believe we can put the tweet up. We don't have it, but I will share with you in summary mostly what it says. He pretty much said, when you are a doctor, a medical professional, the doctor-patient relationship relies so much on communication and trust. And when you are not speaking to your patients, there is a lack of trust. It creates perhaps like a lack of consistency in terms of healthcare. And he says, Dr. Moore, we are all of his patients, but he has not spoken publicly to Ontarians in the last month. He's been defended, as you both know, by the Premier and the Health Minister. So, Charlie, does he need to come out and address the masses, or, is it kind of leave him alone? He's part of his job is to, meet with the medical officers of health, to take care of things behind the scenes in terms of his medical expertise. Do we need to hear from him at this point?
Yeah, first I should just say I did not mean to match with Sabrina, but I think this is hilarious. But on to the actual topic of the question is that, yeah, Dr. Moore, he hasn't made a public appearance in a way that we're used to or have been used to over these last many months where, he's talking to journalists, he's telling the province what the situation is with COVID. And over these last few weeks, particularly the last two, really, as, it became clear that there is a lot more COVID in this province than there was, a month ago, or when we came down after that sort of peak that we had, the very severe peak we had over the winter. And it's gotten to the point where opposition parties, journalists, want to hear from him. He's someone who, when he speaks, and because of the position he holds, it's rather calming, I guess, in a way, versus kind of the partisan figures who come out and talk about COVID, especially in the context of being right before an election. So, what we heard this week from Minister Elliott was that this was Dr. Moore's decision, that, he doesn't think that he needs to hold a bigger veil, that we need to learn to live with COVID. That's been the government's line as well. For the last few weeks, and really since Dr. Moore's last press conference, that's what he was really setting the province up to do. But it is odd because the health minister's office had said that he would be available for interviews. He was out at the St. Patrick's Day parade in Toronto. So it is sort of bizarre that not just are we not having one of these traditional briefings like we've grown used to over these last 2 years, but he's just simply not available to answer questions, which were always really quite helpful as a journalist to really get a glimpse into the government's planning and decision making, because they very heavily rely on him in terms of health decisions.
We have to leave it at that. Thank you both, Sabrina, Charlie. You both look great in your matching outfits. Thank you for your perspective. And I got to say, Dr. Moore being the doctor of the province, it's like calling your doctor saying, I want to chat. And he says, no, I don't want to talk to you. I'm not available. So I think that's the general feeling. Thank you both for your time tonight.
Thanks, Christina.